Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the first round of the Lotus 49 Championship here on GlacierTV, racing for a total of 30 laps here at Circuit Park Zolder. Going to be bringing you live footage in just a couple of minutes for this, the first round, the first ever broadcast of the Lotus 49 on GlacierTV. Will Vincent, along with Rob Cuss, this is our first of two stops in Belgium in a row, Rob. We're at the arguably easier of the two track Zolders, but you've got to be very careful because those curbs that are chicaned, they can really unsettle these race cars.
They can, but we're in a classic race car. They have a lot more suspension travel than cars we're used to, so that maybe you will see drivers attack the curbs a lot more than before.
Let's say we're running at Circuit Park Zolder. For those of you who has ridden at Zolder before, we're running on the alternative layout, so things going to be a little bit different to what you're normally used to. As I say, live footage will be coming up in just a couple of moments' time. 21 cars making the trip over to Belgium, and we'll be with you every season long, all season long even, here on GlacierTV. Starting today with round number 1 at Zolder, and then we'll be with you at Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps. Our coverage from round 2 through 11 will be on Saturday at 7:30 PM GMT. Race coverage for today, of course, is on Friday night. And for the last round of the season as well, will be 7:30 PM GMT on Friday night. And footage is up. So we're running at Zolder. Next week will be at Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps, then Zandvoort, Silverstone, Alton Park, Brands Hatch, Oran Park, Phillip Island, Suzuka, Interlagos, Mosport, and Watkins Glen. That is your season. The way the championship is going to work, these drivers will race all 12 rounds or any number of them. And there'll be different drivers each week due to the way this is an official iRacing series. So therefore, the best guys with the highest iRatings will make the field each and every week. And Rob, that's going to be interesting as well because we're going to see different names throughout the course of the season as guys are going to have to work hard to get themselves into the grid every single week.
Exactly. The competition will be fierce with a lot of drivers that, you know, they might not be able to make one round this, but might be able to make the next round. It's going to be interesting because the championship will consist of, you know, 30, 40 drivers vying for that coveted one podium at the end of the season. So strength of field, etc., more points for different races. It's going to be good.
It's going to be incredibly interesting. In fact, we're going to immediately turn our attention and have a look at the grid. And it's Nicholas Lindvik starting this race pole position. A full 1 second ahead of Jorn Jens will be starting in second place. Richard Avery in third, Thomas Stern in fourth position. Maurice Dietzel in the fifth spot. Brendan Schullian in the sixth position. Keane Nugent in seventh. David Jensen in eighth. Jason Lover in ninth. And Howard Slater. They are your top 10. The gap, however, from Lindvik to Jens, 1 second on the racetrack, Rob, that is huge.
That's massive, absolutely massive. So it's a second. Oh, it's not looking good for the other guys, is it really?
But the field spread as well, that's about 6 seconds. And this, of course, will come down over the course of the season. This is the Lotus 49, the new car to iRacing. These guys have had probably a little under a week, little over a week to get used to this car. And things are really going to be interesting here throughout the entire 12 weeks as the cars are now lining themselves up on the grid. Racing for 30 laps here. 10 corner racetrack, a tad over 2.5 miles in length. Wind speed, there's none of it. Track temperature, 78 degrees Fahrenheit and 55% humidity. Waiting for all of those cars to line themselves up on the race grid. As I said, Nicholas Lindvik will be starting this race from the pole position. Jorn Jens in second, Richard Avery in third, Thomas Stern in fourth. Maurice Dietzel rounds out your top 5. 21 cars making the trip. Ariel Eduardo Bernardi will be starting this race from the last position down in the 21st position. Looks like we pretty much have all of our cars lined up on the racing surface now. So we're going to wait for those lights to go on, the iRacing.com gantry. They'll stay on for a couple of seconds and we'll be green racing in the Classic Grand Prix Series. Lights out, away we go. A good start there by Lindvik as they all gone down to turn number 1 for the first time. Looks like Richard Avery's going to try and select down the inside as they come down into turn number 1. Will he complete that pass? It's so close between them, but it does look as though Avery's been able to get himself up into the second position. There's still 2 iRacing behind in the battle for 4th spot right now on the racetrack. And it looks like this is Maurice Dietzel actually, who's been able to leapfrog Thomas Stern at the start of this race. Sturm has fallen back down into the 6th position earlier on, when Jason Lover is on the charge as well. He started that race in the 9th position. He's gained up a spot also already. Your biggest mover down on the field is Thomas Sturm. Started this race in 4th, now running in about the 8th position on the racetrack. We have a big separation for the mid-pack. We have 2 cars already on pit road. They might have some damage to get confirmation of that in just a moment's time. But right now, at the front of the field, it is I'll take that back. It's Nicholas Lingvitz leading the way. He's already got himself a huge advantage as they work themselves over the middle part of the racetrack for the first time. And this is the part of the racetrack to say we're running on the alternate layout. It's slightly different to what these guys would normally run, say, in the GT Series races. In 2nd position is still Richard Avery. That gap right now, I'll get confirmation of it, it's about 1.9 seconds on the racetrack, and out to an early lead there, Nicholas, as they work themselves down to complete the end of the first lap.
Looked like a completely great lap. I'm in trouble.
And meanwhile, say, in that 2nd position is Richard Avery. In 3rd spot for the time being is Jorn Jens. He's about half a second behind right now as they come back down into turn number 1 again. Jorn Jens has looked very good in that first corner, however. That seems to be the one part of the racetrack where Richard Avery isn't as strong. To run through your top 5 then, it is Lingvitz from Avery, from Jens, from Detail from Newgame. They are your top 5 positions. It does look as though we have 2 cars on pit road. That is Howard Stadler and David Heisey. They are both currently not scored. They are on pit road getting repairs to the race car. So 2 early casualties as we're riding on board with Jorn Jens, who's now closed that gap down to about 3 tenths per second on the racetrack as they come down into the chicane. And it does look as though Avery that time got very sideways as he hit that curb on the exit of the 2nd part of that chicane, making that left-hand turn before they come into the 2nd chicane. They really be careful when they work the bumps here. They've got themselves good acceleration, then 2 right-handers in a row. The first one is easy, the second one a lot more difficult, especially as the fuel burns down in these race cars. And Jens lost himself about 4 tenths per second in that part of the sector. So in the middle part of the racetrack is where Avery is clearly faster. However, again on this lap he's lost 1 second to Nicholas Lingvitz. In the 4th position right now you have Murray Steitzel, and he is struggling to keep on to the rear of Avery and Jens. He's about 9 tenths per second behind. His car looks as though it's not working as well in the high speed corners. But Steitzel running in that 4th position. He's been able to pull out an interesting gap of about 1.5 seconds over Chi Nugent in that battle for 4th position. And also now in the 6th spot you have Brendan Schillian, who's working himself up to the rear of Nugent. And Nugent of course started this race in the 7th spot, made up 2 positions early on. And then he's now under a lot of pressure from Schillian, and Lover is closing in as well, about 1 second back on the racetrack. But right now, battle what we're keeping an eye out is for 2nd position on the racetrack between Richard Avery and Jorn Jens. It does look as though for the time being that number 1 machine of Nicholas Lingvitz is just pulling away, dancing away into the Belgium sunset for the time being. But Jorn Jens, oh no, Avery goes sideways. That's going to allow Jorn Jens to get past. And Rob, that is exactly what it is. If you catch a curve the wrong way, go off the racetrack, you will lose a position very, very quickly. And I'm just having a look to see Avery has also been passed there by Maurice Steitzel. So Avery losing 2 positions there and taking just 1 corner.
Yeah, you know, the curbs are big and dangerous, and obviously he clipped it just in the wrong way and it sent his car off at a funny angle.
And what will happen now is Avery will be under pressure from Chi Nugent. So we're going to have ourselves an interesting battle now, all the way from about 2nd position on the racetrack, which is Jorn Jens, 5.1 seconds back from Nicholas Lingvitz, down Maurice Steitzel in 3rd. That's caught up to the rear of that train as well. And to keep an eye out actually the lap times on Mark Bird, because if these lots start battling ahead of him, he might actually be able to start closing up and get himself into the action in that train from 2nd through 7th on the racetrack. But it does look as though very tight racing in that front to midfield section of the racetrack. As Love it getting sideways there, coming out of turn number 2 on the racetrack. That World Championship Series driver Jason Lover and that 4 machine really struggling early on in this race, Rob.
Yep. You know, maybe car setup, maybe it's not quite coming yet. The cars are a bit funny in the first few laps. Get the those lovely radial tyres going.
Don't forget, of course, you can keep in contact with us. Use the hashtag GlacierTV. Alternatively, you can follow me on Twitter at Will Vincent with 1L, please. If you get 2, you get some graphic designer somewhere, no, a Drupal designer even, in America. But Nicholas Lingvich has now got a 5.7 second gap over your second place driver, who is now Jorn Jens, as Richard Avery has dropped back 2 positions. It does look as though that middle section is very closely separated, actually. Brendan Schullian in the 6th position is looking very racy right now, behind the rear of G. Nugent. He looks as though he might try and set himself, not just yet, for a pass into the final chicane. It would be a very, very difficult place to do. That track is very narrow on that alternative section of the racetrack, Rob. Mainly because, in fact, you can only really get 1.5 cars there. Trying to go side by side on a very fast left-right flick could be a recipe for disaster.
Definitely a recipe for disaster. That bit of the track is actually really deceiving. The first bit is a lot tighter than people think it is. The second bit is not too bad, so I don't know if you can get it lined up and maybe undercut, but it's not the best place to be trying to move.
Very slow car, and I'll get confirmation of who that is, and it was a very slow car. That's Lumit Murek, who's already scored 1 lap down. To just give you a run through of the casualties of this race so far, Howard Stadler is scored 3 laps down, pretty much out of the race. David Heisey is out of the race, as is David Jensen. So 4 cars pretty much out of the race. We've got 1 car scored laps down. So Lingvich leads away. He continues to pull out that gap. It's currently about 7.2 seconds over Jorn Jens. Dietzel in 3rd. Avery in the 4th position still. Nugent in the 5th position. Brendan Schullian in 6th. And Jason Lovett in the 7th position. Mark Bird hasn't actually been able to catch up to the rear of his group. He's dropped off about 0.2 of a second a lap. Brian Ortonier is actually a full 7 seconds back, however, from Mark Bird for the time being. And then Will Lamb rounds out your top 10. And it's that stage of the race now. Once that kind of early tyre situation, the tyres are up to temperature up, it's that stage of the race really when this field will start to get a little bit more spread out. It can be very, very difficult to make a pass here.
Yeah, you've got to be super careful because, you know, the tyres are that little bit warmer, so you want to push that little bit harder, but that's when you make mistakes. These cars are so tricky to drive. You kind of need to get yourself into a nice, easy rhythm and just gently push.
I'm trying to have a look at the lap times actually, and they are very, very closely separated in the middle, in that midfield, from about 4th position down to about 9th. You do get a big drop off though once you get behind Mark Bird, who's doing lap times of 1 minute 29.5. Bernie Hawkins is doing a 1 minute 31 lap time, kind of crossed the 130.4. He's actually closing up on Ottinger, but it'll be about 5 or 6 laps before he gets up to the rear of him. Will Lamb is really struggling. He's doing 1 minute 33, and he's got Nick Thiessen right behind him. In fact, we're going to go on board with Nick Thiessen very quickly as they work themselves down towards the 2nd chicane on the racetrack. And it looks as though that it's just tough for these drivers to find a way past for the time being. You see, Thiessen's taking an alternative line out the chicane to try and force a way of doing the undercut. Not happening. It's a very narrow part of the racetrack. You can try and get a run down into this 90-degree right-hander. He's not going to be close enough for that. You can see already he's just letting off the gas a little bit early, trying to see if he can compromise the entry to get a little bit more on the exit of the corner. It's a way you can get these cars to work. If you know you've got a car right behind you, they're always going to have to brake before you anyway. And as they come down into the final chicane, it does look as though he's going to close quite dramatically. But again, he just lost it on the exit. Now he's going to get a good run because ahead of him, Will Lamb got a little bit sideways. Nick Thiessen's going to go to the outside line, and this is a battle for 11th position on the racetrack. And Thiessen is now ahead. He sweeps down to the left and will complete that pass down into turn number 1. Getting word that Jason Lovett's doing some very fast lap times, but really is struggling to try and trying to find a way to get past Brendan Schullian ahead of him. Now that gap's in about 0.6 of a second for quite a while, and of course, when you're in a pack like this, Rob, you've not really got any aerodynamics. Well, you've got no aerodynamics at all on this car, but you still get a little bit of slipstream, and that will help the car behind and the car in front. So you're not really going to gain a massive speed advantage on the straightaways.
Exactly. These cars have no downforce. They are 400 horsepower toothpicks with 4 wheels attached. They're beasts. You do get the smallest amount of draft. It's nothing massive, but passing is so hard because the cars you have to brake earlier, a lot earlier. So if you overcook the braking zone, you're going to go off. It's pure racing.
Jens does his fastest lap time of the race, a 1 minute 28.816. That is still, however, 8 tenths of a second slower than the fastest lap time of Nicholas Lingvich in that first position. In fact, Lingvich's last lap time was still 4 tenths of a second faster as he continues to lead away, gap up now to 8.7 seconds on the racetrack. But Jens has been able to pull out a gap now to Maurice Dietzel in the third position, so it does look as though, for the time being at least, Jens has got that second position under control. But Avery is very fast behind the rear of Dietzel, and you have to say you do expect him to try and make a pass in the next couple of laps because he's losing a lot of time right now.
Yeah, he's got to look to get past as quick as he can because, you know, they're not the longest races, so any time lost behind a slower driver is not going to help your cause at all.
Avery's last lap time, 1 minute 29.157. That was still his fastest lap of the race. He did struggle early on. We saw him going off at one of the chicanes, the first chicane on the racetrack, which dropped him back from second position down into fourth, which is a position that he's continued to run in. In fact, you see there, they get a very tight apex into that right-hander, down into turn number 8 to try and get a better run. It didn't work for him, however, because Dietzel took a wide entry, a wide apex, and was able to get it working perfectly for him. That gap still remains at about half a second on the racetrack. Behind it, however, does look as though Team Nugent has fallen off in the rear of Avery, and Shullyan, yeah, it looks as though actually Brendan Shullyan is out of the race just outside of our screens. So something has happened to him, and that's put him out of the race, and it's moved Jason Love up now up into the 6th position on the racetrack. They get confirmation of what happened to him. He just went off at the final chicane there, Rob. Completely missed the apex of the corner, and yeah, got himself onto the grass, cut onto the track, beats himself on the gravel, game over.
Looks like he braked too late on entry and couldn't hold it. These cars are so difficult to slow down. So difficult to slow down.
And you see, just as he came down into the last chicane, replay up on your screen, he just completely misses braking zone. That compromised his apex. He just caught the grass, and at that point, he was always going to go straight on. And that was pretty much the end of his race. He is not requested a tow back towards pit road, so he is done for the day. What that does is it moves Team Eugene up into the keeps him in 5th position, moves Jason Lover up into 6th, and that's useful for Lover because he was stuck a little bit actually behind, and now he's actually going to get a pretty good run over Nugent, because Nugent was very slow there out of turn number 8, and if Lover can get a good run through 9 and 10, this could set him up in the front straight away, Rob.
Yeah, if you get good exit, the grip of this car is brilliant off corners. So if you can get good run, but you've got to commit early, and you've got to make sure you size up your opponent well, because passing is a risk. Because as I said, alluded to before, these things aren't the easiest to slow down.
And that gap right now between those two drivers is about 2 tenths of a second on the racetrack. We'll go on board with Lovett as they come out of the 4th corner on the racetrack. This is a really interesting corner. You've got to really be committed to this. You see there, Lovett taking a very deep inside line, but then Nugent was running it all the way over to the curb. Lovett's not going to be close enough going down into the chicane, and that's the thing, because it's very big braking distances, and the lap time, the top speed of these cars isn't as high as you'd see, for example, in the Williams. You can't brake that late. The brakes are literally made out of, baked bean tins, and it does mean that you've got to brake so early, so there's not that ability to just kind of out-brake someone into the corner.
Yeah, it's tough to try and make a pass. You've got to commit early, and obviously you're allowed to defend. You're allowed to move over once, so you almost have to trick the driver in front into sort of going, right, is he going to go now? Is he going to know which line do I have to defend? It's a game of chess in cars.
Indeed it is, and with 10 laps scored complete, ladies and gentlemen, welcome once again to the first round of the Lotus 49 Classic Grand Prix Legends Championship here on GlacierTV. Will Vincent along with Rob Cost, Julie Backman, and your top 10 are Nicholas Lingvich, now with an 11.4 second gap over Jorn Jens. Maurice Dietzel in the 3rd position, Richard Avery in 4th, Team Nugent in 5th, Jason Love at 6th, Mark Bird in 7th, Boyan Ottena in 8th, Connor Cross in 9th, and Nick Thiessen rounds out your top 10. A total of 14 cars still scored on the lead lap. A number of retirees. We talked about Julian beating his car on the gravel track. Ariel Eduardo Bernaldi is out the race. We've talked about the other 4 drivers already as well, but Jorn Jens lost a lot of time that previous lap, and that has allowed Maurice Detzel to close that gap just a little bit. It's now 1.6 seconds on the racetrack, and we know that Jens really does use his tyres up quite a lot, and in this type of car, that will make him very vulnerable to attack in the second half of this race.
Yeah, especially with the driving style of this car as well. They do slide around, so you know he's going to be warming the surface of the tyres up a lot as they four-wheel drift through some of the corners, which is very exciting for us to watch and looks amazing when there's 3 or 4 cars go through the same corner, like in a slide. It's great, but it's not the best for the tyres. So we'll see if Morris can capitalise.
The slow car there down on the inside, and that is Justin Johnson, who's currently scored 1 lap down. He's going to be in a very dangerous position though if he doesn't pull that car off the racetrack, because that entry for turn 1, you want to take that inside line. If the car's coming up with a head of steam, luckily he wasn't, that could have been a catastrophic accident. But Lover still stuck behind Nugent in that battle for 5th position, and Lover is still there within 2 tenths per second. But the thing is, Avery's now 3.5 seconds ahead of 2 drivers. And Lover really does look as though he's pushing his tyres, going sideways there, out of 3. On that run down to the first chicane, he's not going to get anywhere near close enough because of it. Drops back about 4 tenths per second. And I've got a feeling Lover's starting to get frustrated in that car, because of course, driving for INX Racing, we know how good, historically, those cars are in a straight line. You don't have that advantage here. He hasn't got that downforce to work with.
Yeah, there's not. What he's got to do is he's got to look for a mistake or a weak corner where Nugent's were weak, and then size him up there and be committed and make the pass. That's the trick. That's the only way you can do, because you know it's hard to outbrake him because they're braking in the same points roughly. You can't brake much later because the car gets all squirrely. So it looks like Avery is right on the back of Maurice Detzel as well, just up ahead. So he's within 2 car lengths, so it's going to get interesting.
Yeah, Avery's been able to close that gap up after that incident that happened to him early on to the race, which dropped him back from 2nd into the 4th position.
Detzel missed the apex, almost gave Avery the gap as they 4-wheel drift through turn 2.
And now Avery wasn't able to gain that much, however. He's going to need to make sure that he can get a good run out of here, perhaps to try and set himself up into the chicane. Of course, if you get a slide, you're automatically thinking, are my tyres starting to go off? Do I need to readjust my braking distances? It does look like Detzel's been able to hold on for the time being in that number 11 machine, but Avery's still pounding the pressure on. And of course, they are both now starting to catch Jorn Jens. That gap is down now to a little over 1 second on the racetrack, as Jens really is starting to lose time.
Yeah, it's easy to miss an apex, or in these cars, because you only have to brake a fraction later than normal, and it ruins your lap. They're so difficult to drive. I mean, you can appreciate how good Jim Clark and people like that were in these cars.
And behind them, to give you an update, Mark Bird has now fallen back to 3 seconds behind Jason Lover. Boyan Ortinger in 8th position is 38 seconds behind your race leader. Connor Cross is closing down. That gap is now down to a little under 4 seconds on the racetrack. So Cross will catch up to the rear of Ortinger in the next 3 or 4 laps or so. Nick Thiessen is actually dropped off the rear of Connor for the time being. And that's kind of surprising to see Nick Thiessen struggling so much in this car.
He has been competing in one of the other series quite a lot, which is a high downforce car, so jumping from one to the other, not the best thing you can do. So maybe he was just doing that. I mean, drivers have commitments to other series as well, so maybe he's just struggling with that, getting used to the car. I'm sure it'll improve later in the race.
So as we approach that half race distance as well, we are at that point where, again, we're going to talk about tyres quite a lot here today. Tyres will start to fall off, and because this racetrack in many ways is very stop-start, you're not going to see as many issues here as we'll see at Spa-Francorchamps next week. But the difference is here it's going to be that low speed first, second gear cornering, and these cars in first gear, they do not handle well at all. That's going to be the critical part. Trying to get that power down in the second half of this race. Compare that to Spa in 1 week's time, where you're going to be looking more for average corner speeds throughout the corners.
If you're struggling to come out of corners, well, I think you're a little bit too heavy on the noisy pedal. You do have to manipulate the throttle gently to get these out the corners.
Don't forget, also coming your way on GlacierTV this weekend, we've got ourselves 2 episodes of IndyCar Weekly. We might as well just make it a daytime show, I promise. But the first one of them coming up to you in a little over 3 hours' time. Then one tomorrow evening as well. We've also got Polar GT action from down under Phillip Island, and that will be on Sunday. Start time for that will be at 6 p.m, 5 p.m. even, GMT. Keeping an eye out on that battle still for 3rd and 4th position between Reese Detzel and Richard Avery. And Avery's dropped back about 0.2 of a second now. That gap, which was just about 2 car lengths on the racetrack, has kind of now become about a 4 car length advantage. And Avery, he's just dropped back. Perhaps he's trying to set himself up for an attack maybe in a couple of laps' time, trying to preserve his tyres a little bit. Behind him, Jason Lover is still within touching distance of G. Nugent in that number 14 machine. And Lovett looks as though he's got his lines down a lot more now, but Nugent just driving a very, very conservative race and not putting himself in any harm's way at all.
Yeah, he's just driving nice consistent laps, which it's making it difficult for Jason to try and get past. So always he looks to the inside, gets all kinds of sideways coming around there, which is great to see. Some nice sideways action. It looks like Jason's got a much better exit out of this section. Let's see if he can pull a move and into the fast left.
The thing is, if that was the chicane, he might have been able to go side by side. He gets a little bit sideways in corner exit. That cost him about 1/10 of a second. As they come past the scoring loop, it will be 0.3 of a second between Nugent and Jason Lover as we now pass half race distance in this race. And Lover getting a little bit sideways, but Nugent getting a little bit wide in the exit of turn number 1. Now you see Lover again trying a different line into turn number 2. They'll flick it through that 90-degree-ish right hand of turn number 3, and then they'll come down into 4. That very, very fast right-hander. And this is where Lover is better in that kind of faster corners. He doesn't look as good in the stop and start parts of the chicane. To give you an update though, Connor Cross, it looks like he's now gotten past Born Oshinger, so he's moved himself up into 8th position, and it looks like it was a mistake there by Bernd Oshinger.
Yeah, sorry, Jason's got a massive run going into the first chicane. Oh, so low on the brakes, they're all getting all kinds of sideways. But it looks like Nugent just holding on there, Jason made a big move, but looks like Nugent just covered it.
And again, Lover is going to try and go on the attack, and this is where he was strong last lap. And again, Nugent going a little bit wide. This is going to be by far the best chance for Lover. He's still exactly 1/10 of a second back as they work themselves into that final chicane. Lover's going to have to try something different here. He's going to have to try and away, perhaps getting off the gas earlier, rotating that car, and then getting on the gas a little bit earlier. He doesn't do it well. He loses 0.2 of a second in that final corner, and arguably the best pass in place is down into turn number 1. Fast corner, straight away into a slow corner. But again, Nugent running a little bit wide, and this is going to allow Lover again the chance to get close through turn number 2. But again, Lover can't get the power down out of turn 2. But this time, Nugent going a little bit wide once again. Lover taking an inside line all the way around, coming down into turn number 4, and status quo is exactly what it's been.
And sorry to cut in, Avery's as close as he's ever been to Maurice Dietzel up front, just ahead as well. So it's almost a mirror battle for these guys. It's some great racing between all 4 of these drivers.
Love it though, going side by side as they come down into the second chicane. Will he get that job done? Yes, he will. Onto the brakes he goes, and they touch there.
Oh.
And Love that gets through the corner and harm. G. Nugent there goes off the racetrack. We'll have to get a replay up on our screen to see exactly what happened. It looks as though like Lovett just came. Oh no, actually it was Nugent. He just turned into Lovett there. You're gonna have to say, Rob, because Lovett, you know, he was already on the curb, and Nugent still turned into that corner.
It's like Grosjean. I wonder if we get a penalty. Oh no, no, he's not French, so it'll be fine.
And replay up on your screen, and it did just look like they got side by side. And I'm thinking that Nugent actually thought that he had allowed Lovett to already go past him. He was just trying to take the corner, thinking he was already behind. He didn't realise that Lovett, with a tater apex into the corner, wasn't able to slow that car down as well. And I think that's what happened there. We'll put it down to a racing incident and we'll move ourselves on. But the important thing is, Nugent is now down into the 6th position on the racetrack. Jason Lovett is up now into the 5th spot. And we'll have an interesting battle to see now whether or not he can try and close down Richard Avery, who, of course, is still stuck behind Reese Dietzel. And a little bit of lap traffic coming into play here, as well as Thomas Stern in the number 18 car scored laps down already. And Avery has got himself a bit of a run. He just glances back into line. This lap traffic could be important for Avery, however.
Yeah, Avery's driving really well, and I'm digging his British Racing Green livery as well. It's very cool. But I think Lovett's going to catch these guys up. These two keep squabbling, and with the lap traffic, Lovett's not that far behind, so this could be a three-way battle very, very quickly.
It could. Of course, negotiating lap traffic on this racetrack could be interesting as well. You see that Diesel wasn't really being able to close up too much there on Thomas Stern ahead of him. We'll come down into the final chicane once again. We'll see what that lap time is actually as they come past the start-finish line, because this could be critical as Thomas Stern moves out the way on the left-hand side. For Richard Avery, that last round by, it was a 129.107. A 129.0 from Maurice Dietzel. Jason Lovett, you see he comes past the line. He did a 1 minute 29.8 that last time. So he didn't gain anything at all there. But of course, now we'll have a clean lap to see what he can do.
Yeah, but now he's got clean air, apart from the one car that's a little bit further down the road. Where I think he will put the hammer down.
And we'll keep an eye on Avery just for the time being, see what happens with him. To run through your top 10, Nicholas Lindqvist has now got a 15-second gap over Jorn Yen. Maurice Dietzel in the 3rd position, Richard Avery 4th, Jason Lovett 5th, Team Eugene in 6th position after losing that position to Jason Lovett, Mark Bird in 7th, Connor Cross even in the 8th position, with Nick Thiessen right behind in 9th, and Bernie Ottinger rounds out your top 10. In fact, we're going to go and have a look quickly at Nick Thiessen, because he started this race in that number 10 machine all the way down in the 20th position. So he had to work himself up now into the top 10, into 9th spot. He's still keeping that pressure on Connor Cross, and of course every position for him right now will be valuable, especially early on in the championship.
Exactly, it's a really, really mature drive from Nick to start that far down and halfway through the race, and he's in the top, he's in the top 10. It's great, and he's right on the back door of Connor Cross as well. He's only like 4/10 down, so chances are he can make a couple more positions because Mark Bird's
there. He had a good chance even, because Connor Cross got very sideways through the second chicane. So Thiessen now all over the rear of him as they come down into turn number 8 once again. They'll slow it down to about 50 miles an hour for the apex off the corner. Again, Cross getting a little bit sideways through the centre of the corner. Nick Thiessen, however, just not being able to get onto the power as early as he wants to. He's kind of in that dirty 3 tenths per second air as they come down into the final left hand then right hand flick. And you see, compare what Thiessen through the final corner can do. Compare that to what Lovett was able to do. Thiessen is able to hold a much better speed for that final chicane there. And that would prove to be a bit of an advantage if he's trying to set a pass up into turn number 1.
Yeah, it looks like he's just letting off that little bit earlier and letting the car roll rather than being heavy on the brakes. Look at that through turn 2. That was amazing. That was one of the best lines through that turn, and what a drive. That was fantastic.
And that's closed the gap down to 2 tenths of a second, and now Thiessen, he didn't get on the power the way he needed to make the pass. And that's going to be that thing here. People's got to find a way of getting onto the power. There seems to be a lot of lap time left to give there. Connor got loose. Bad over the chicane. He's squirting all over the place, and Thiessen almost runs into the rear of him. Thiessen getting sideways because and you see Connor Cross there very nicely. Gentleman racing in a gentleman's car. And you see he just allowed him to go past. And I think that's pure sportsmanship there, because he did almost take Thiessen out when he got sideways.
Yeah, maybe Nick just put a bit too much pressure on Connor, and Connor's like, whoa, let me finish. Let's let him pass. He's obviously quicker. We'll let him pass and just I'll pick up my points, and I'm good. So, intelligent driving by Mr. Cross there.
Meanwhile, going to check in on that battle for third position on the racetrack. Maurice Dietzel and Richard Avery.
Ooh, look at the traffic.
There is a lot of traffic ahead of them. They're going side by side at times as well. To give you an update, Jon Jens has been able to pull away again. And that gap is now up to 2 tenths of a second. And, by the way, Jason Lover, he's fallen back. And he's now once again behind Team Egypt. He did a 1 minute 34 like last time by. So something happened to Jason Lover. We'll try and see if we can get a replay of what happened to him. And it was down in the second chicane. For Jason Lover, and that car was pointing left before he came down. As soon as he came
oh, Avery just tried to make the move. Oh, sorry, Will. Richard Avery just tried to make the move into the tight right-hander before the last section and almost made it stick. It was a good attempt.
But for Avery, again, he can't get it done out of the final chicane. So we will try and get ourselves a replay to see what happened with Jason Lover. And it was coming out of the left-hand crest on lap number 20. And what happened to him was, it just looked as though that car was already pointing left as he came out of the crest. He was getting a little bit loose on the exit off the corner. And what that meant was, when he tried to brake that car, he just snapped to the right-hand side, oversteered into the chicane, and it just spun him around. And that's why he's now back behind Team Egypt. Meanwhile, this is going to be interesting because lap traffic came into play just a little bit there from Maurice Dietzel. And he was able to get through it just at the point he needed to, because he didn't want to be held up on that first straightaway down into the first chicane. But Avery still within touching distance. Does look like Dietzel is holding his own, however, in that third position.
They're both driving really well, and when you get drivers of this calibre driving this well, it's a mistake that's going to allow the person behind to pass, basically. I mean, Richard tried to move on the last lap, didn't quite get it done. He's not close enough this time to try it again. He was a lot closer. So it's just going to be a mistake. I mean, it's great racing, and these cars are fantastic to watch race and being driven so well.
Went wide. He just went wide though, did Dietzel. This is going to allow Avery to get the run. They are going to perhaps go side by side down into the final corner, sideways for Avery. He will have the inside line for the first, but this corner he will breeze past. He uses a little bit of that grass, and knowing there's a tarmac, as soon as you turn left, he will complete that pass. Richard Avery now up into...
He's got to slow down. He's got to slow down.
Penalty. And that was because he did cut, let's say, he cut that grass just a little bit there. Race control saying he had to give that position back. Heartbreak for Avery. He did try and capitalise. I think actually he was just trying to be a little bit overcautious going to that corner, making sure if they did go side by side, Dietzel would have the line. But in doing so, he lost by far his best chance in this race.
Yeah, he did. It was a great move in theory, but obviously the race stewards penalising bravery there. Sounds familiar, doesn't it?
Just a little bit. To run through your top 10, Lingvitz leads away, Jens second, Dietzel third, Avery fourth, Legion fifth, Love at sixth, Birdsong decent eighth, Crossing ninth, and Ottinger. They ran out your top 10. Just got 10 cars scored on the lead lap. Cars scored 1 lap down. Will Lamb, Gorgino, and Thomas Stern. You have Lubin Morek and Justin Johnson. They are scored 2 and 3 laps down respectively. It does look as though Johnson actually might be now classified as out race. He's on pit road. Meanwhile, we're on board with Nicholas Lindqvist as he comes down into turn number 1 on the racetrack. In fact, we're just going to ride on board with him for this first half of the lap, because turn 1, take a very wide exit out of here. Then down into turn number 2. Of course, we've seen some very different lines into this corner. Bring it down to the curb, then allow it to roll back out so you can get a good arc down into turn number 3. You do need that arc in this race car. Take a different line in here to what we'd say, for example, taking the GT car. Then turn number 4, you really want to bring it down to the inside curb, then roll it out to the outside as you come down into the first chicane. His best lap of a race, he set that last time by, Rob, a 1 minute 27.602.
The guy is a machine in this car, and it's going to be interesting to see throughout the season who can challenge him, really, because 20 seconds is massive. It's not a small gap, is it? This is like a Vettel in the RB7. See you later. I'm just going to drive off into the sunset and let you guys fight out behind me. It's dominating performance, really.
It is a dominant drive by him, and he has a little over 6 laps left to go before he will be our first winner in the iRacing.com Classic Grand Prix Series, the Lotus 49 Championship, here on GlacierTV. That last lap, by the way, for Lindqvist was just 3 tenths of a second behind the world record for this car at this racetrack. Let's see what happens as he comes past the straight once again. This time it's a 1 minute 27.602, and we'll just get confirmation he's just outside the world record there by our books. But Lingovic is really pushing all those, and I think he wants that world record.
He must be a Vettel fan. That's all I can say. He's qualified on pole. He was leading by a mile. Now he wants world record and fastest lap, you know. So he's going for it. It's great. Will he do the finger at the end of the race? That's what we want.
Who knows? But I tell you what, Avery is still close behind Maurice Dietzel for the time being in that battle for third position. That gap has stabilised to like about 5/10 of a second. You're going to have to ask, though, what can Richard Avery do in these last couple of laps? I mean, you're going to have to hope, if you're Avery, that Maurice Dietzel has taken too much out of those tyres. You're trying to hold on to that third position, and perhaps he might get, you know, a little bit off balance coming out of turn number 8 once again, because it did seem to be that is where Avery is strongest. As Avery goes
Avery just makes a mistake, yes.
That's going to cost him about a second and a half. Richard Avery drops back, and the thing is, he can't make a mistake like this now, because it's going to take him 2 laps to close that door back up. In those 2 laps, Dietzel can just take the pressure off himself a little bit, not have to take the aggressive defensive lines, and that's going to make it more difficult for Avery now in these last 2-3 laps.
Yeah, it's a shame. It was looking to be a great battle towards the end of the race, and you know they've been battling all race. And one little mistake, he just got a little bit sideways. He must have just missed his braking point, or just decided I can make a little bit of time up. Just got it slightly wrong. He is quick through this bit, so we'll see if we make any. We can make any time up through this section, because he was dynamite through here earlier.
He made up about a 1/10 of a second that time by. Of course, he doesn't have the draft down the front straight, so that won't help him as much. Coming down into turn number 1, this is why I think Avery's just amazing. Through turn number 1, then especially turn 2 and 3. Let's see what happens here. Gap say 1.8 seconds at the line. So he comes through turn number 2, a little bit sideways there for Avery. So he maintains that gap for the time being at 1.8 seconds. And then through turn number 3, I'm thinking that Avery might have backed off now.
I don't know. Maybe he's just. Yeah, maybe he's just frustrated with himself. I wouldn't say backed off. Maybe he's just pushing himself a little bit too hard, making mistakes just like that, and he's overshot the chicane. Yeah.
And the thing is, he has still got to be careful. If he starts making too many mistakes, you know, there is a chance that late on in the race he could come under pressure from the Legion Lovett battle. But it does look as though that Lovett too has just decided to give up the ghost for the time being over Chi Nugent, because he's fallen back 4 seconds now. Lovett has got still about a 13-second gap to Mark Bird behind him. But we've just have a look there on the replay. Pass from Thomas Stern in the number 18 Vortex car over Gord Ginot. So Ginot losing a position, Stern moving up a position. The German driver there now up into 12th spot. Still running pretty well considering he is car number 18 in this field. And getting past good driver and Gord Ginot at the same time.
Yeah, he's done all right. There's a few drivers that will be happy with this race, and Gord Ginot is car number 20, so you know, he's gonna score some good points here as well. So, and Bjorn Ortner, car 21, so technically with the car number the slowest guy in the field, but running in P10, so not that slow.
Not that slow indeed. Don't forget, you can see Thomas Stern in action also in ISOWC action. Next time we'll be on GlacierTV for that. We'll be at the ISOWC Racer Champions coming to you in a little over 1 week's time before the ISOWC Indianapolis 500. A double header on August 25th. First of all, the ISOWC Indy 500, and then the 2.4 hours Neo Endurance race from Spa. Avery, I say, yeah, he's dropped back now. Clearly, he's dropped back.
Yeah, but Dietzel was catching the ends. He's can see him. The gap has come down.
It's come down, but the question is, can he do it in time? Because he's not got that many laps to go. He'll have 3 laps up the stripe. Gap was about 3 seconds on the racetrack. He's going to have to close out at least a second lap His gap is now 2.4
Yes.
seconds. Yeah, but he's still not got enough time. In fact, he's still about 3 seconds. So he's going to have to gain his second lap and find a way past on the final lap if he's going to have any chance.
Or yawn to make a mistake, which in these cars, mistakes are easy to make. You know, you can outbrake yourself. You can just get your line wrong. You know, you can lose time easily in these cars. Then, as I said, they're 400 horsepower toothpicks with wheels. So, we'll see. But Dietzel looks as though he's got the bit between his teeth and can smell that second place.
And also, Thomas Stern, he's been able to close up to the rear of Will Lamb as well. Last time by Thomas Stern, a 129.881. Will Lamb, a 133.2. Stern getting a little bit sideways coming out of turn number 4. But surely, you're going to have to say it's just a matter of time before Stern moves up another position on the racetrack. This time over Will Lamb, who has struggled. And Lamb's fastest lap of the race is 2 seconds slower than what Stern did last time by. Stern's going to be very close coming down into the session to Kane. Arguably, he's not going to do it here, but he might try and get it down into turn number 8.
Yeah, he's lining him up, and he's pretty much on his gearbox. I don't think you want to get any closer than he is now. Which way will he fake him? It's going to be a tough pass to go around the outside here as Will Lamb covers the line, but he sweeps around the outside. Just see you later. Thanks for coming, and good night.
I think Lamb realised that he was going to go to the outside and he had better entry speed. And I think Lamb just feathered off the gas just a little bit and allowed him to breeze past Thomas Stern now up into the 11th position. Meanwhile, we have ourselves about a lap and a half left in this race. By far, like, Nicholas Lindgren is going to be the fastest to field. We've not talked about him that much, but that number 1 car, his fastest lap of the race, a 1 minute 27.6. And he's consistently in the 127s and no one else is.
He just looks majestic going around with his classic Lotus paint scheme as well. The telltale yellow stripe through the middle, just matching helmet. He's got it dialed in, you know. He's like making it look good, making it look easy, and he's just demonically fast in this car around this track.
Last lap then begins for Nicholas Lindqvist as he comes past the start-finish line once again. This time he does a 1 minute 27.841 down into that final run into turn number 1. A good run through there. Jorn Jens at the same time, however, he has gallantly held on to that second position because Dietzel at some points of the race has clearly been faster. Avery, of course, he was faster at one point of the race, and I think if Avery didn't have to deal with Dietzel, he would have been all over the rear of Jorn Jens without question. And also Needs and Lover as well, 5th and 6th positions, a good run by them.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, everyone's had it's been a really good race. The whole field has been doing well. Obviously, you know, you've had drivers retire because they've made mistakes, but to be competitive in this series, you do have to push the limits, and you know these cars do punish you if you exceed it too often, and you know it's going to be a great championship.
And of course, the next time we are going to be on air will be at Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps. We go from one Belgian racetrack to another. Week number 2 will be Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps. A beautiful racetrack. We'll talk a little bit more about that in the post-race show. But Lindqvist down into turn number 8 for the final time. He has got lap traffic ahead of him. That lap traffic might want to stay on the lead lap because it does look as though that there is a little bit of a battle going on there. We'll have a look to see who it is. It's Connor Cross, actually, and Nick Thiessen. So Cross would want to try and stay on the lead lap, but Nicholas Lindqvist will come past start-finish line. He does the famous wiggle. Nicholas Lindqvist wins here at Zolder by a dramatic margin. 25 seconds it was at the line last time by over Jorn Jens. He was able to pull out there almost a second a lap over his nearest rival. That is Jorn Jens in the number 2 car, who now comes down into that final left-hand flick, right-hand flick for the final time. Onto the start-finish straight for him. Jorn Jens comes home in the 2nd position. Maurice Dietzel just a couple of seconds further back in 3rd. Richard Avery now coming out of the final corner, and he will come home in the 4th position. And Chi Nijin as well coming out of the final corner. He's going to claim 5th position, Rob.
Yeah, brilliant racing for the top 5. Love it, crosses the line as well to finish in P6. Mark Bird is just entering the final left-right complex, which is a fantastic corner when you get it right, and he crosses the line for 7th, and then Nick Thiessen and Connor Cross are casually strolling in behind. They're just going through the tight right-hander and heading down to this section now. There's only a couple of car lengths between them, so Nick can't make a mistake in this section or get a slow. Well, he could get a slow down and just cross the line, I suppose. But as they fly through, Connor gets it all kinds of sideways, and that rounds out your top 10 with Nick finishing 8th and Connor 9th. And sorry, Bjorn is going to round out your top 10, and but he's already finished the lap down. Yes, which is
9 cars finished on the lead lap in total. Then we had a total of 14 guys finish the race. We'll start by running through your retirees. Justin Johnson out of the race comes home in the 15th position on the racetrack. Then you also had Ariel Eduardo Bernardi, Howard Stadler, Brendan Chullian, Marcel Lorenz, Dave Jensen, and David Heisey. They are all your retirees, but then wants to confirm your results. Nicholas Lindqvist winning by 27.2 seconds over second place guy Johan Jens, Maurice Dietzel in third, Richard Avery in fourth, Chi Nugent in fifth, Jason Lowe at sixth, Mark Bird seventh, Nick Thiessen in eighth, Connor Cross in ninth, and Brian Ottinger rounds out the top 10. Rest of the finishers: Thomas Stern, Will Lamb, Gord Junot, and Lumia Murek. They are all the guys that completed the entire-ish race distance. Lindqvist, class of his own, really. Class of his own.
Absolutely unbelievable. In a car that's really hard to drive to lap a second a lap quicker than anyone else is ridiculous. And in a race to be 3/10 off the world record is crazy. Just like to shout out to all the viewers that watched the race. Hope you enjoyed it. And if you want to know how to drive a Lotus 49, I believe the man you need to contact is Nicholas Lindqvist, because that was a clinic.
A clinic indeed. And the question is, will he be able to take his performance from here today? I talked about this earlier on. Very kind of stop-start racetrack. A lot less momentum flow here compared to Spa-Francorchamps in 1 week's time. Spa, of course, the track combination arguably that made this car what it was. This car was so dominant at tracks like Spa. And in 1 week's time, we're going to see perhaps the most majestic racetrack in the world with one of the most majestic race cars in the world.
Yeah, the way Nicholas drove through the fast sections in this track, that fast left-right combination, I think he's going to be the man to beat. I think he might even be more than a second lap quicker than some of these guys at Spa. He just seems like he was made for the car.
So, we'll be back in 1 week's time for round number 2 of the Lotus 49 Championship here on Glacier TV. Don't forget, you can keep in contact with us on Twitter all season long. Use the hashtag GlacierTV. Alternatively, we always have multiple hashtags for these things. So the specific hashtag for this series, we haven't actually got one, but I think it's iRacing Classic is what we're using. iRacing Classic on Twitter as a hashtag. Follow me at Will Vincent as well. Plenty more action coming up your way on Glacier TV this weekend. As I say, we've got 2 episodes of IndyCar Weekly, one tonight, and a very, very, very special episode tomorrow. I'll be here in England, but we'll have a lot of guys over at the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course, including, potentially, probably one of the most famous journalists in the world, Robin Miller, and also Vice President of Competition for IndyCar, Derek Walker. It's going to be an amazing episode. We'll be on air for that probably about 9 o'clock tomorrow evening, Eastern Time. So I know it's a bit early in the day for Sunday for the European guys. Catch it on YouTube. Also, we've got Proto GT Action. That's the one on Sunday. And that will be coming to you from Phillip Island. In the meanwhile, I'm also going to go and visit the dark side, Rob. I'm going over to PSR TV. Sort your mic out.
Boo.
Sort your mic
out. No, I was cutting you in because also over the winter, look out for the Corvette series that Glacier are doing.
Yeah, we've got more information coming that way a little bit soon. We've still got to piece together all the details, but it will be coming your way over the course of the next 6 months. And yes, I am going to the dark side tomorrow. I will move you. We've got the iRacing All-Star race, and there's a couple of radical boys involved in that, so I'm going to talk about it. The iRacing.com All-Star race, we're going to have 10 laps at Montreal, 50 laps in the sprint car at Milwaukee. It's going to be crazy, epic fun. Tim Terry can't be there. no other commentators could be there, so they dragged me in instead. So see that, iracing.com/live tomorrow. For myself, Will Vincent, from Robcast, from Yoni Backman. We'll see you all next time. Bye-bye.